Chapter 552, Pomp. Danitz threw the splint and bandages into the trash, flexed his left arm, and said, "Typically, a pirate's provocation is an insult, but I'm different. I do targeted insults. This requires one to grasp a lot of information and rumors, and also understand the provocation target. Only by doing this will you be able to make him lose his mind and cause his brain to be burnt out with a single sentence." He paused for a second and said, "Just like with Steele. You can curse him, calling him dogshit, or you could curse his parents and captain, but that will be useless. However, if you do an action and throw in a line with that, he will definitely turn into a bull who only sees red." With that, Danitz put his hands on his hips, held his crotch, and shouted in a low, scornful voice, "Bitch. I really want to hit him. He lives up to being a provoker. Indeed, Steele Mavetti has such tendencies and hobbies, Tusk." Klein loosened his subconsciously clenched fists. "This is what you call professional provocation." Danitz spread out his hands in conclusion. "If I meet a beast, a monster, or someone who cannot be communicated with since they had lost control, I can proactively emit a feeling that they hate. This is a beyonder power. People with such beyonder powers would either be great at receiving beatings, or they would be great at escaping. Clearly, you belong to the latter." Klein cursed inwardly. Without having to worry about his injured left arm, Danitz was in a good mood as he continued, "Actually, I'm very good at setting up traps. It's a pity that you didn't agree with my plan when hunting Steele Mavetti." Klein resisted the twitching of his mouth as he calmly replied, "You still have a chance." "What chance?" Danitz asked out of curiosity. "A chance to set up traps for beyonders such as Steele. One by one, I'll introduce you to them." Klein smiled. Danitz was momentarily at a loss for words. He knew very well that traps were often ineffective against a man who wasn't afraid of guns, projectiles, fire, or water. Danitz let out a hollow chuckle and turned to look out the window. "The weather has cleared up. Does that mean that the serpent, Calvatua, is dead?" Klein answered tersely, without hiding the truth. Danitz exhaled, hesitated, then said, "Regardless, after this city-wide sweep, few pirates will dare come to Bayam for some time. This will definitely include Admiral of Blood. Your plan of hunting him with Captain might have to come to an end. The Sanya Sea is so big, so it's very difficult to find a fleet that intentionally hides their whereabouts. Moreover, they can head for the Fog Sea, Berserk Sea, North Sea, and Polar Sea. If it was that easy to kill a pirate admiral at sea, the church and the military would have done it a long time ago. Let me return to the Golden Dream as soon as possible." Danitz lampooned under his breath. "Don't worry, I have a way, and this will be your job." Klein asked without batting an eyelid, "What's your captain's opinion?" He had already spent 12 pounds to obtain a radio receiver through Fours, but he had been too busy with matters regarding the sea god to bother with it. Hence, he hadn't taken it out from the junk pile above the gray fog to bring to the real world. Meanwhile, Klein had received the money from Miss Justice and Mr. Hanged Man, raising his fortune to 7,085 pounds and 5 gold coins. A wealth at this level was enough to buy a rather large and productive manor anywhere. If it wasn't for my revenge and my hope of finding a way back to Earth, I could have already retired. Klein thought in satisfaction. "Captain's opinion." Danitz forced a smile and said, "Although Captain and the others should have entered within a 500 nautical mile radius, in theory, allowing the attempt of a soulful ritual, you should know that the sea routes aren't entirely safe. Pirates have to be careful not to get caught by the military or the church. For this, they often need to take detours. I believe we should wait another day before doing the soulfall ritual, so as to prevent any wastage of energy and materials." "Okay." Klein didn't give any affirmative answers and had turned towards the washroom. He planned on heading out again, today, to search for a chance to act as another person. Seeing Jayaman Sparrow's back, Danitz exhaled. "I must first contact Captain in private and persuade her to let me return to the Golden Dream before I can use the soulfall ritual in front of you. Jayaman Sparrow is someone who likes to head out. I have plenty of opportunities and space. Heh heh, don't tell me that he enjoys shopping." Danitz thought, curling his lips. After leaving the Cathedral of Waves, Alger Wilson went straight for the Ralph Trading Company in reflection and found the owner, who was reading a newspaper. He was well aware that this middle-aged man, in formal attire, a bow tie, and glasses, was a veteran pirate. He supported the resistance in secret and reverently worshipped sea god Calvatua. "What is it, our captain of a ghost ship?" Ralph put down the newspaper, crossed his right foot over his left, and smiled leisurely. He was an illegitimate child. His father was an adventurer of Lone and Fasac blood, and his mother was a native. He had made his fortune by becoming a pirate, then being a merchant that did business with both pirates and the officials. He established a vast network of connections that provided him with help at the Governor General's office, the city council, and the police station. Upon hearing Ralph's question, Alger almost frowned, because the man's attitude and tone were rather abnormal. This abnormality was a state that wasn't in accordance with Alger's expectations. In his opinion, after the fall of sea god Calvatua, he was certain that there would definitely be bad omens in the Rorstad archipelago. The pious believers would definitely sense that something was amiss, either feeling apprehensive or downcast, so how could they still be so relaxed and natural? Alger didn't directly mention Calvatua. Instead, he chuckled and asked, "Do you know where Cavero has been recently?" Cavero was the pirate captain who possessed the beyonder characteristic of the Sanguine Baron. It was said that he was once a sailor aboard the Black Emperor, and that he was part of the periphery forces of the King of the Five Seas, Nast. Who knows, but he's surely not in Bayam, otherwise he would have been caught in the raids in the past 2 days. Ralph shrugged his shoulders. "I heard that his boat went south." Alger actually had an appointment with Cavero on this matter, and he was only using it as a way to start the conversation. Of course, he was well aware that to avoid the tsunami in the waters of the Rorstad archipelago, Cavero had definitely gone far away and would take some time before he returned to Bayam. However, Alger wasn't too anxious, as he already knew that Mr. Moon had been given an acceptance draft. If he withdrew the sum before its maturity, he would receive a discounted value and lose a large amount of interest. He deliberately nodded his head and said, "Got it, thank you for telling me." At this point, Alger pretended to be unaware of what happened as he asked, "I heard that many sea god figurines in many places shattered by themselves." He hadn't witnessed any instances of this himself, but he could make a reasonable deduction based on the church's archives. In many of the colonial islands and countries of the southern continent, more than 1 or 2 false gods like Calvatua had been finished off by the 7 churches. What happened after their deaths had already long been recorded in the archives. Ralph calmly nodded. Yes, there was such a thing. But that's not bad news. His expression turned fervent. Because God has appeared over the land once again in a new image. God has reappeared over the land once again with a new image. Alger's eyes remained fixed on him, and he felt that this was both reasonable but also unexpected. Judging from the Church of Storms' reaction, he was certain that Calvatua was already dead. Then, which sea god was responding to the believers now? Connecting it with his previous judgment, he quickly came up with a bold idea. Is it an embodiment of Mr. Fool? He used sea god Calvatua's perishing to create a new identity. He can release his powers through the seal to directly affect an identity in the real world. Is this the real reason for the world to come to Bayam? Mr. Fool really does things with pomp. Alger secretly swallowed his saliva and suppressed his excitement. In the Wind of Azure Inn, Klein, who had yet to leave, saw the stack of cash Captain Elland handed him. Here is your reward for a total of £100. He didn't mention how much Jayam Sparrow and Danitz each received, but he gave a total amount. As for how exactly they would split the reward, that was something he left to them. The military is really generous. Klein silently mused as he received the thick stack of cash, instinctively taking out 2 5-pound notes and tossing them to Danitz. He lowered his wrist and finally drew another 2 10-pound notes in an expressionless manner. Jayam Sparrow is still rather just, far more just than just Elland. Danitz put away the reward in pleasant surprise. His wallet that had slimmed down quite significantly over the past couple of days had finally been replenished. Glancing at Jayaman Sparrow in his new clothes, Elend asked, after some deliberation, with his boat-shaped hat in hand. News from the Church of Storms has revealed that the person who posted the notices on the cathedral's door, informing them of the problem between Letitia and sea god Calvatua, was Blazing Danitz. What do you think about that? He stared straight into Danitz's eyes and waited for an answer. Haha, Danitz gave a hollow chuckle. I don't know him. Klein was silent for 2 seconds before saying, while fulfilling a dead adventurer's wish, I came across Letitia and her companions at the inn. Snakes invaded our place in the middle of the night, but they easily resolved it. After returning to Bayam, I went to purchase some items from the Resistance and discovered that they had taken out their holy sword. Furthermore, there were 2 mid-sequence Beyonders guarding that small base. I felt a crazy will invade my body just by making contact with that holy sword for a moment, and I had nearly lost control on the spot. They were still after Letitia. What Klein said was the truth. It wasn't the entire truth, but it was enough to infer the contents of the announcement. Even if the kingdom's military and the Church of Storms were to investigate further, they would only be able to unearth the fact that Jayaman Sparrow could change his appearance. After listening carefully, Elend sighed and smiled. If there are such things in the future, you don't have to post notices in the middle of the night. You can come find me directly. This will allow you to reap even greater rewards. He stood up, put on his hat, and said to Danitz, I heard that the bounty for blazing is going to rise again.